You've probably heard it 100 times. It doesn't define you. You're more than your trauma. It's in the past, and you can move on from that now. And you nod, and there's a part of you that wants to be true for them or take care of that person. And there's a part of you that wants to try and make that true for you. But deep down, there's this whisper. No, wait. This has defined me in some ways. And it has shaped who I've become. And please don't take this away from me, too. There's a beautiful thing happening because when you hold on to your pain, because there's still more to be seen or known, this is not a bad thing, despite what a lot of people might tell you. This is a beautiful thing that your body is still trying to speak to you and transform the trauma. What if it was the most honest thing that your body has ever told you? Welcome back to Heartmind with Holly. I'm Holly, and I'm so excited to have you here. Grab a cuppa if you can. This is a short video to support you in grounding in the trauma that you have experienced rather than trying to right away transform it or change it or shift into an empowered person. Yes, that can be the goal, but it's actually using your trauma as compost. Let's talk about that more today. And also about the cost of this pressure to move on or not let it define you. There's this violence that can happen with move on or it doesn't define you. That person is assuming your current status. And I know they mean well and they want you to be happy and they want you to be empowered out of that trauma and out of survival mode. But what it does is it almost has an opposite effect. When someone tells you to move on or that it didn't define you, what they're quietly and underneath saying to your nervous system is that every way that you've learned to survive and create yourself is not you. There might be some truth to that of needing to evolve, but it becomes an attack on the very thing that you've created in order to survive this thing. And that doesn't matter. That way of that you survived or that the identities in which you've created in order to survive doesn't matter. And that can be a bit, uh, again, erasing ourselves and put it on their perspective of trying to find what they want or need in order for you to not be defined by this thing that very much has defined your experience. Here's the thing, your body literally just can't let go in an instant. It's just not possible. There's a pattern of hypervigilance, emotional intelligence that's born from that chaos of surviving. The ability to tune in to everyone's needs in the room, the ability to morph yourself to keep yourself alive, the ability to, shut down, and the ability to turn on in certain ways that can support you. This is the nervous system built on that identity. And now it feels like when someone says that, you're asking me to abandon that and abandon myself. Let's look at Western science and what Western neuroscience has to say. When you experience childhood trauma, chronic childhood trauma, your brain doesn't just record it, it starts to reorganize itself around the environment. The amygdala is going to start to be really switched on during danger. And the more the danger and the chaos can seem like danger, okay? A lot of parents don't quite understand, but some things that didn't seem dangerous to you might be very dangerous to a child, especially a child that might have experienced past traumas. And so the danger is alerted, the prefrontal cortex starts to shut off, and our ability to plan or to organize gets shut off. To also manage our emotions gets shut off because we're in that freeze survival mode. Now, I do believe the other can happen too, where once we're able to switch on, when we go into the prefrontal cortex, we start to shut off, going into the lower parts of our brain because it's just a place for survival. And the lower parts of our brain start to connect with our body in a different way and start to trust our body in more of an experiential somatic way. And so some people that have experienced trauma can stay in that switched on planning mode, frontal cortex analyzing mode of the emotions rather than actually feeling and experiencing the emotions because that's too scary. They're very, very scary emotions. This is not a disorder. This is survival architecture. And that part of you, that version of you that you've created through those experiences and through that neuro pathway is not wrong. That version of you has ways of surviving, but also it has a sense of humor. It has a way of relating to people. It has a way of creating a life that you think you need and want. At some point, you personally might meet the limitations of that and want to grow and start to create coherence. But it's not going to become from a place that says what you've done is wrong or that what you've done does not define you or what you've done you need to move on from. And that's why it can be damaging, confusing when someone says, don't let it define you, because there's a part of you that is in the abyss. If that doesn't define me, if that doesn't explain who I am in some really tangible, big ways, then who am I? And it can send you into that existential crisis. But it can also make you feel unseen, unvalued. It can make it feel like what you have experienced and what you have made for yourself, this life, this way of being that you've made for yourself, is invalid or wrong. This is going to be a really hard one again. I've mentioned it before, but in Ayurveda, let's talk about how they might see this and support you building an identity with the trauma. So, in Ayurveda, our physical body, and that includes obviously the neuro pathways that we're carving out and creating for ourselves, which is plastic. You can shift that over time, but what you have created is your subconscious mind. So the physical body, your physical being, is your subconscious mind. And some people ask, well, but what about DNA? What about getting that passed down? And exactly, you're part of your family's subconscious mind as well. The resilience of finding those pathways starts to build a way for ojas to be created. Ojas is that nutrient rich lubricant energy that really nourishes your whole body, all of your organs, all of this. And so when a survivor finds a pathway that can work for now, maybe for a couple of years, maybe for 5 years, maybe for decades, that is the pathway in which the ojas has been built, that has helped to regenerate nourishing energy through the body. So again, we want to keep maybe slightly shifting how we receive ojas to receive more, but also not completely abandon what we have found in the ways that we found to nourish ourselves, basically. And then we use that base to keep building our identity. So, yes, we do want to grow into maybe other ways of working with our trauma. We want to see other vantage points from the trauma, what to gain, how to transform it. But it's through the building block of that defining us and that really supporting who we are and where we've come from. The other aspect that I want to talk about with Ayurveda, but it's also used in yoga. These two practices are used often with same ideas and pathways, is the Vayus, which I've talked about and I have a video on if you want to explore more. But let's talk about Udana Vayu, which is the Vayu that comes up and out and through the throat. It's what allows us to speak. It's that pathway of prana. So when someone approaches you in that way to move on or um, to uh, not let that define you, one of two things can happen. There's this stopping of Udana, and that's where we get that throat, where it feels like your throat has something in it, or you're feeling choked, where you feel maybe the gut is not able to digest because indigestion, you're getting pushed down. And then you might feel this need to express and get stuff out, but it feels like it can't be, so it's tampered. Um, we're needing that to move, and that's part of starting to create a new identity, is to speak it, right? That's why talk therapy can be so helpful along the way, is because it starts to get that to move. Or one of the other things that I help people do when I'm coaching them through transforming trauma is gently over time together co-creating moments in which they can speak it to friends, they can speak it to groups, and people again. And this is, I have to tell you, one of the most freeing ways to kind of start to transform and enfold the trauma as part of your identity, is to speak it. I invite you to take a deep breath with me. And if you've felt that rebellion, when someone says to you, move on, that doesn't define you, the past is in the past, even if it's within yourself, it's an internalized thing where you're saying, move on by now, come on, self, come on, Holly. That the rebellion coming back to say, I'm okay, I am, and this does define me, and I don't need to move right now necessarily. I need to just see it. The rebellion that comes back is Udana. It's Udana wanting to speak out. Let's move to TCM. Let's move to traditional Chinese medicine, where I use meridians in yoga to start to feel more whole. The liver is where righteous anger lives. So if you have that sense of rage or anger that's pretty righteous, this was wrong, what happened? This is wrong. This doesn't feel right. Righteous anger, I think of a lot too. It's just, this doesn't align with me. This doesn't feel like this aligns with what I know and believe. That's going to be driven by the liver. The liver is a leader. And it's also going to be affected if you're not able to express that anger, and anger really needs to be expressed. So it will tighten, your gut will start to tighten, your jaw might tighten, your digestion might have to stop, that kind of thing. And it's going to be affected in the liver if we don't, again, move or express that righteousness in a way that's also obviously compassionate and open, but still, this isn't right. And this is what I know, and this is what I believe. That takes time to get ground and stabilized on. That's part of the issue with someone coming from their perspective to move on. Well, maybe they're right. I don't know. And then there's the other part of you that's saying, but I can't move on. And that's going to tighten and confuse and create fogginess in those liver lines and in the digestion. It might come again, from tightness in the belly. It might become a tightness in your diaphragm, so you can't breathe fully. You can't exhale or relax your diaphragm. It can be very somatically compromising. And so we start to work some of that out in the liver, and we start to own some of our own stories, own some of our own beliefs. The liver, we work a lot with belief systems. And that way, when those are challenged, we can come back and to that point, this is what I believe. This is what I believe through my experience. Not that we don't want to keep open to learning new beliefs as well. And that's what, over time, we create that openness, which is really important with the liver as well. If you haven't had that outlet, sometimes that tightness in the liver can create real strong limiting beliefs. I can't do this. I can't do that. That person shouldn't do this. That person shouldn't do that. And it becomes an erasure of maybe yourself or how others can be. Later this week, I would love to use some practice with this. If you would like practice, put in the comments that you want to practice. I'm still trying to learn what this little channel is, and your feedback would help me greatly. So if you're wanting more practices, let me know. Here's what I invite you to take away if it serves you. Your trauma is part of you. It's not all of you, but it is. And it is okay to go to the past. In fact, the past is going to blow up in the right here, right now, if you don't hold on to the past a little bit and go back to the past. Hold it for a moment. It's not wrong to go back. And your story, your speaking of that experience matters. It matters physiologically, but it also matters to your physical body, to the matter part of your body. And who you became because of that trauma matters. It really is in your body. So please don't ask us to pretend that it's not. Please don't ask us to say that it doesn't define us. And we don't have to have a fissure between what we experienced and who we want to become. They don't have to be divided. If this episode supported you today, supported you finding a little more strength in that rebellious one or that one that's been silenced, I am so grateful for your watching. I am so grateful for you subscribing and maybe sharing with a friend, a loved one that might need to hear these words too. Maybe someone that you've tried to explain this to, or maybe it's just someone that you know is going through this very same thing. I'll see you next episode. Please check out the other videos that might serve you and let me know what you need or want from this channel. Travel well, enjoy your prana. Until next time.